שאלו שלום ירושלים, ישליו אוהבייך, יהי שלום בחילך, שלווה בארמונותייך. שלום, 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 ירושלים.
Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Those who love you will be blessed. Peace be within your walls, and blessing to those who reign. Oh, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Those who love you will be blessed. Oh, peace be within your walls, and blessing to those who reign.
Shalom, 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 Yerushalayim. להודות לשם אדוני, להודות לשם אדוני. להודות לשם אדוני, להודות לשם אדוני, להודות לשם אדוני.
We are here tonight to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming tonight. I'm Pastor Jim Franklin, the senior pastor here at Cornerstone Church, and it is our honor to be hosting this tonight. We're also very thankful to have Inspiration Tours. Steve Dick is here with us tonight from Inspiration Tours. They've been a great part of this and making this happen. from their staff, Joel James. Joel, come and join me. Joel is the Global Client Services Vice President. Joel has been involved in ministry for several decades of reaching out and understanding the importance of our relationship with Israel. He's played a key role with Ingalls Wings in the establishment of the Global Day of Prayer for the Peace of Jerusalem and the Israel Experience College Scholarship under the direction of Bishop Robert Stearns. In 2006, Joel coordinated the launch of Christians United for Israel in the northeastern United States with Robert Stearns and Pastor John Hagee. And he has been a great part of making this event happen tonight. So will you welcome Joel James? He's going to help me tonight.
Can you help me welcome and thank Pastors Jim and Cindy Franklin, Pastor Nathan Franklin, Stephanie Inskeep, and the great team at Cornerstone Church for this wonderful evening. For 30 years, Pastor Jim Franklin and his wife have ministered in this community. They've never shied away from important or difficult issues. This is a time when they are willing to stand firm and put their money where their mouth is, their time where their mouth is, and they are a great example to our community. Thank you, Pastor Jim. So tonight we're going to hear many, many stories from different people. This is a night of voices and a night of stories. One of the youngest that will be here with us tonight is a third grade student from Mrs. James's class at Emmanuel Elementary, one of the great Christian schools in our region. You know, in the morning and evening prayers, Jewish people say and pray the Shema Yisrael. Comes from Deuteronomy, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one." For many years at Emmanuel School, Mrs. James has been teaching her students to sing the Shema. In fact, that is written on the timbers inside the walls of their new elementary school in Reedley. So we're very pleased tonight to have the youngest member of our program team. Her name is Abigail Asman. Come up, Abigail, and she's going to sing the Shema, a prayer for all of us to start this evening. Welcome her, please.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kavod Mahuto Leolam Vayeh.
Wonderful. Wonderful. The youngest member beat me by just that much. I'm going to ask you to stand with us now all over this auditorium. I am glad to be a citizen of the United States of America. And as the old country and western song that Merle Haggard once sang, I'm proud to be an Okie from Muskogee. I'm not from Muskogee. My wife is. And that song says, we still wave Old Glory down at the courthouse. And we begin tonight by the singing of our national anthem. I'm going to ask my wife, Cindy, to come and join us.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Now, if you will remain standing as we pay honor to our greatest ally in the Middle East, the great nation of Israel, with their national anthem. You may be seated. Several segments that you're going to see tonight that I believe are going to be eye-opening. When I decided to do this and we were having our meeting, I said, I'm tired of hearing people's opinions. I'm tired of hearing the commentators comment on things when they really don't know what's going on. I said, when we have this night, I want to bring in people that can speak to us firsthand, that have experienced and can speak with authority, as you will hear tonight. One of the things that we are so concerned here in this nation that we have seen recently, and that is the rise of anti-Semitism. I was looking at some statistics. The Anti-Defamation League tracked 8,873 anti-Semitic incidents in the United States in 2023. That is the highest number of incidents reported since the organization began tracking in 1979. Last year, the number of anti-Semitic incidents outpaced the all-time high set in 2022, just the year before, by 140%. The more than 8,800 incidents of anti-Semitism tracked by the group include harassment, vandalism, assault, and it's a dramatic increase of nearly 3,700 cases over 2022. And what is even more tragic in this is that between October the 7th and December the 31st, and we know why October the 7th is marked, there were 5,204 incidents according to that audit. We've been seeing news stories like this.
Protesters at Columbia University took over Hamilton Hall on the school's campus. A Monday deadline to disperse given by school officials didn't stop anti-Israel activists from breaking into the building and unfurling a banner reading Intifada, a term sometimes used as a call for violence against Jews.
It's gotten to the point now that Jewish students are concerned, fearful to even walk their campuses, some even to walk the streets. So I wanted you to hear not the results of a report, but the words from a student. She wished she could be here tonight, but she's in finals there in Santa Cruz. She is a student at the University of California, Santa Cruz. Her name is Donna Harrell. She is one that, well, her mother is Israeli. She has an American father. She spent her childhood in Israel, and she tells her story firsthand. Watch the screen.
Hi, my name is Donna Harrell, and I am a fourth-year student up at UC Santa Cruz. I am so sad that I cannot be in person with you all. I unfortunately have a final tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., so I have to stay up here. But I'm so grateful to be able to talk to you all today and to share a bit about what it's like to be a college student now. Imagine you are in college. You're away from home, you have amazing friends, and you're a part of various organizations or clubs, and you're excited to take classes you actually want to take since you have finally finished your prerequisites, and you are getting to know your new housemates. You go to all the Welcome Week events and meet new people, you exchange socials with everyone, and you're gaining new potential friendships, and people are joining the amazing campus community that you are a part of. Your classes start, and you form study groups, join Discord servers to be able to chat with your peers in your classes, and set up coffee dates to catch up with friends who you haven't seen most of the summer. As the classes start, you're already feeling the stress of starting a new quarter. Just as you're settling into your first week of school, you come home after Shabbat dinner and open Instagram. The first thing you see is that missiles were fired into Israel from the Gaza Strip. You scroll down and see that terrorists have breached the border. You scroll down more and you see a video of terrorists in a truck with giant guns driving towards innocent civilians. In that moment, your life has changed. You are paralyzed sitting on the couch. You call your mom. She answers and you tell her to turn on the news. Tears are streaming down your face, and you open your laptop and turn on the news. You sit there with your housemate holding you as you watch your fellow brothers and sisters get slaughtered. You're texting your family asking if they are safe. The only thing you could do is wait as their responses are slowly trickling in. You open Instagram and you are bombarded with images and videos of all the atrocities as they are happening. Eventually you go to sleep, knowing that this is just the beginning. Before October 7th, being a Jewish student on campus was always a struggle. Asking for accommodations so you're able to be observant could be a challenge depending on the professor, and oftentimes you were your classmate's first Jewish person that they have ever met. I found myself explaining what Judaism is all the time and constantly advocating for my religious freedoms. This also came with the questions about Israel. Especially since I have family in Israel, people expected me to be an expert on geopolitical and religious conflicts of the region. I was constantly stereotyped for having wealth or being privileged, but also was blamed for various inconveniences that were completely outlandish. As a freshman trying to fit in, I would have brushed it off and just moved on. And it wasn't until I was having to defend myself in a student government meeting about how boycotting Israel is detrimental to Jews when I faced forward-facing anti-Semitism. All of a sudden, I was getting messages saying Hitler didn't finish his job. I should be sent to the gas chambers, and I was a child murderer. Worst of all, I wasn't only getting attacked with such vile hate. My fellow Jewish friends were getting similar and or worse messages sent to them as well. This wasn't a one-time occurrence as well. This continued throughout my college experience. Nazi symbolism would be graffitied on buildings, and Jewish students were continued to be ostracized because they were Jewish. It was a normal occurrence on my campus. Even when reported to the university, there's only so much they could do since hate speech is protected speech. Every year, something big would happen that would target the Jewish students. My first year, it was anti-Israel, anti-Semitic Zoom bombing. My second year, it was graffiti. My third year was a Hitler birthday party. And finally, we made it to my fourth year, which is arguably the most hate I have ever felt in my entire life. On October 10th, the Students for Justice in Palestine, also known as SJP, on my campus had made a statement calling what happened on October 7th an act of resistance against Israeli colonizers. Less than 2 weeks later, they would start vandalizing the campus with chalk and posters justifying this so-called resistance. Then came the various rallies in support of Palestine and their resistance. A Faculty for Justice in Palestine formed, where faculty would support SJP in their messaging and would try to incorporate their propaganda into their classrooms. TAs also showed their support by adding propaganda to their discussion sections, even if the class had nothing to do with the war. A new group called JAWS, which claimed to be a Jewish group, formed, adding more kindling to the fire. All of these groups would come together under the guise of supporting Palestinians to call for the total annihilation of Israel. This kept on going for months. Everywhere I turned, there was a poster or graffiti outside or inside the buildings with messages of hate. You couldn't even go to the bathroom without seeing Free Palestine etched into the bathroom stall wall. By the time March rolled around, most of us students had enough, so we decided to host a Jewish solidarity walk. The night before the walk, the anti-Zionist group JAWS decided to counter-protest our event. As Jewish students were sharing their experiences about anti-Semitism on campus, we were being screamed at. This was one of the most traumatic experiences I have had as a student on campus up to that point. Little did I know that it was just the beginning of something worse. May 1st was when the campus was established. From this stemmed the most vile demands and hate. They took over a central location of campus, which led to people not being able to go to work. When their demands were not met, they decided to escalate things. They went into classrooms disrupting learning to call for people to come protest with them. Then the UAW-UC chapter decided to go on strike for solidarity in Palestine. The encampment decided to move from the middle of campus to the base of campus. UC Santa Cruz is unique due to its geographic location on the side of a mountain. There are only two entrances vehicles can pass through, the main entrance and the west entrance. For about 2 weeks, they blocked the main entrance completely. They also blocked the west entrance several times, trapping everyone on campus. Not only did this disrupt our ability to learn and trap people on campus, they also delayed and prevented an ambulance from being able to reach a child in need. As of May 31st, the encampment had been dismantled, but so much harm has been caused. I have friends that were forced to find emergency housing due to anti-Semitic roommates and housemates. Jewish students have been doxxed online due to their being associated with Hillel and standing with Israel. Constantly having to look over your shoulder or keep your head down because you are a Jew became normal. Harassing and alienating Jews became normal. I felt like it was the Jews against the world, with no one out there to stand with us. Despite feeling so isolated and alone, with only my fellow Jewish community supporting me here, I knew that I had friends that were not Jewish and were supporting me from where they were. I had the amazing opportunity to be an Emerson Fellow with the organization Stand With Us. It is a fellowship for college students where we are taught how to educate people about Israel. There I met Christians who love Israel and wanted to show their support for Jewish people. During our first conference back in August, I became friends with some of the Christian fellows and stayed in touch with them once I went back home. After October 7th, they were the first people who reached out to ask how I was doing. They continued to advocate online, and I was able to see their support even if I wasn't with them in person. When we had our second conference in March, I was able to reunite with my Christian friends and felt so much love and acceptance from them. When writing this speech, I was on the phone with one of my Christian friends who I made at the conference. I was telling her about how I was going to talk to all of you. Something that we did during our free time at the conference was talk about the similarities and differences of our cultures and religions. She had so many questions for me, and I had so many questions for her, and it gave us each the opportunity to be able to connect with each other and learn how to support one another. This showed me that we are not alone, but not enough people were speaking up. Currently, with the amount of misinformation being spread due to social media, it has caused for the ability of hate to spread so easily without anyone to check it. This is especially prevalent on college campuses, since so many students rely on social media platforms to get their news from. We need the help of allies like the Christian community, especially Christian students, on their college campuses to come and show support for us Jews and Israelis. We should be working together to support one another and stand up to the evil that is terrorism and hatred.
It was a very beautiful place, Kibbutz Kfar Aza, a very beautiful place. I loved it. I've been living there for the last 45 years. I still see it as my home. A lot of things that I love to do in the kibbutz, especially with my grandchildren, and having a very rich community life, especially celebrating the holidays together.
Life was very good. There was returning of young generations, tradition, solidarity.
The community starts with my group. This is second family for me. I don't know how to say it, but the community is part of me. And it's what I like the most in Kfar Aza.
95% paradise and 5% hell. Now it's turned all over. We hear Arabic very early in the morning, before 7. They were outside our window, so we understood very early that it's different. Uri sits with us maybe for 2 minutes, and he goes outside. And the girls say, "Did Dad leave?" And I say, "Dad doesn't leave without saying goodbye."
So a terrorist with a weapon, wearing a Hamas uniform. He was wearing a band on his head, and he was yelling. He was calling people, gathering people to come over, as he already conquered the kibbutz.
Soon enough, we got messages from people. The terrorists are entering the houses, invading their homes, and trying to open the safe room.
You hear them talking, not even shouting. You hear them talking in Arabic, and I don't have the words to explain the feelings, but it's in your home.
Got a text message by the family, WhatsApp. Help us, the terrorists are here trying to get inside the mamad.
When I see those images, as I was having lunch with our guests today, I told them I have no point of reference. There's nothing in my life that in any way would even come close to what they experienced on October the 7th. That's why you need to hear their stories. And we are so honored to have members from Kfar Aza with us here tonight. And I thought just Ori was going to be here, but he's brought 2 other with him from the community, and we are honored. Will you gentlemen please join me here on the platform? Now let me introduce these folks. Ori Epstein. He's one that we've been telling this community about that was coming, the story, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But let's talk a little bit about Kfar Aza. What do you do there? What's your role in the community prior to October the 7th?
Until October 7th, Kibbutz Kfar Aza and the community of Kibbutz Kfar Aza was flowerful and amazing community. I'm in charge of the business of the kibbutz, and we have also agriculture and industry, plastic industry, and all other some companies, but it was very successful business in the kibbutz and a very powerful community.
Next, we have Victor Weinberger. Victor, what is your role with the Kfar Aza?
First, shalom, and thank you for having us. I've joined the forces of the kibbutz after October 7. My wife was born and raised in the kibbutz and actually grew up with Ori since they were 0. I'm now the director of planning and strategy and helping to plan the future and rehabilitation of the kibbutz.
Dan Rigrave. I know I butchered that pretty bad. What was your role with Kfar Aza?
So my name is Tzion, Jerusalem, and it was overwhelming to see all those films and your support. My job, I am the community director of Kibbutz Kfar Aza. I joined Kibbutz Kfar Aza just a week after October 7th, start as a volunteer, and then because most of the leadership and management of the kibbutz was murdered or unfunctioned, so I joined them to be the head of the community. I think one of the most difficult things in Israel today.
So Ori, let's start with your story. You were there October the 7th. Let's go back and tell us your account of that day.
I want to start telling the story in October 6th. Imagine the Friday night dinner, all the family together, happiness, 3 generations of our family, my parents, my sisters and their families, my son and his fiancée, my daughters. And like every family, a lot of fun, a lot of happiness, hugs. The kids are playing around. Week later, in the same place, in exactly the same hour, we sit again around the table to have a Shabbat dinner, but half of the men of the family, of our family, were gone. And we have not need anymore to a large table because 5 of my family members, 5 family members had died in October 7. At October 7, we woke up at about 6:30 by a siren of a missile and rocket attack. And Immediately we understand that it's something else that we useful because it was very intense. But we went to the safe room and we stayed there. And after a few minutes, we started hearing gun shooting, an explosion, and it's become more and more intense, and it becomes closer to our house until we hear that out of our windows. Half an hour later, about 7 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call from my father, and he told me that there is some problem with my mother. He told me that she fell down and she lay on the ground, and he called her, Bila, that's her name, and she didn't answer. She's not answering. And I told him, I came to help you. But my wife told me, stay here with our younger daughter, and I will go there. And she ran to the house, and 5 minutes later, she called me, and she told me, your mother was murdered by the terrorists.
So he didn't realize what had happened to her.
Yeah.
I mean, the furthest thing would have been thought that she would have been shot.
Yeah.
But that's what happened.
Yeah. He didn't realize that. But when my wife came to the house, and she checked my mother, she understood immediately. And she found the bullets. About an hour later, hour and a half, I went out from my house to looking for my brother-in-law, Ophir. He was the mayor of the regional council. And at the end, I find his dead body on the way near our house. 2.5 hours later, I got a phone call from Irene. Irene, it's my son, my eldest son, fiance, and she called me and she told me Netta was killed. The terrorists came into the house and threw a grenade into the safe room. And he jumped on the grenade. He threw himself on the grenade to save his fiancée. And she is alive. At the end of the day, I lost 5 of my family members. And as a community, we lost 64 members. 10 of them are a very close friend of me. And also, 18 members of our community was kidnapped to Gaza. And 5 of them are still hosting in Gaza.
So on that day, there was no way that you were prepared for this.
No.
And this was not just a few terrorists that came across. There were literally hundreds.
Yeah. It's about 600 terrorists that came from Gaza, crossed the border with many armor and weapons. They came by trucks. And the sound of that 2 days, it's all the time like a machine gun, but it's never ending. And many explosions. It was terrible.
So you're there in the safe room because the houses have safe rooms because of the missiles that readily are launched there, and so you have a place to go. And then, obviously, with the anticipation that something like this could happen, So you're there in the safe room. Now, it's you and your daughter there at your home. Your wife has gone to your father's house after the tragedy of the loss of your mother. And so you're separated from your wife while you know that there are terrorists outside. You've seen the dead bodies as you went looking for your nephew.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind at that time?
It's a good question. I not really know, but I try hard to be calm and cool and collect myself, because I know that I have to project a strength for the community and for my family, for my family in Kfar Aza and outside of Kfar Aza. And you think many things, but the main thought is how I protect my youngest daughter. She is only 12 years old. And how I can protect my father and my wife, but they're not with me. That's it.
So you were in communication with them via phone.
Yeah, we tried to communication by phone, but there was extremely problem connection on the cellular network. So sometimes it works, sometimes not. And afternoon, most of the mobile phone was stopped to work because the battery was end. The last time that I talked to my wife, it's about 6 p.m., she told me that the terrorists outside of the house, she hearing them talking, and they shoot on the house. But she told me, I'm gonna be okay. Since that conversation with her, I have no connection with my wife and my father until Sunday noon.
So from Saturday, or from when to when? Sunday noon is when you connected with them again. How long was that period that you had you'd lost phone service?
More than 12 hours, about almost 18 hours.
To sit there and not know whether your wife, your father, had you heard anything from other members of the community also? Had they been in contact with you, or had you been in contact with them?
Yeah, some of them, like the movie, they ask for help. Someone called to me and say, Ori, you must save me. I here with my family, and there is a terrorist in our house. You must do something. And I got at least 4 phone calls like that. It's a very tough situation. But you try to give them a hope. So I told them, the army on the way to secure you. But I know that is a wrong answer, but I try to give them a hope.
So during that time, when you're not knowing, then the military comes. But during that time, you're hearing the sound of gunfire. You're hearing the voices of the terrorists that are out there.
Yeah.
What were they doing?
When the army came, the first soldiers came at the morning, but around 9 o'clock in the morning, at Saturday, but like a unit, organized unit, came to Kfar Aza only at afternoon. And all the time we hear the sound of the gun shooting, and the soldier also. And all the time we accept it's only a few minutes. It's only 1 hour, and the army will rescue us. But it didn't come. Actually, I have been rescued. It's Sunday noon. Someone called me and told me to go to kind of meeting point, and I met the army. I met a vehicle, army vehicle, military vehicle, and 2 soldiers. And I demand them that they must go to a few families with kids and babies. And after a long discussion, they agree, and we went to the houses, and me and the soldier rescue the families and get him into the vehicle. And when the vehicle was full, over than full, with babies and kids and the parents and all people, we went out of the kibbutz to our safe zone.
I want to go back to the heroic actions of your son. Tell the story of how he was there with his fiancée. They were in the house in the safe room. The terrorists were throwing hand grenades in. He was picking them up and throwing them back at them.
The 2 first grenades, he succeeded to throwing back to out of the safe room. But the third one, they roll it on the floor to the corner where the fiancé Irene hide, and he jumped. He shot a rimon, it's grenade in Hebrew, and jumped, threw himself on the grenade, and saved her. And after that, she came into under the bed, and she pulled her body, dead body, and
hid behind him.
Hid behind the body, behind the dead body for 6 hours.
So he saved her life twice.
Twice, yeah.
From the grenade, and also to provide a shield for her.
If I can just add that what happened in the kibbutz during those hours, we heard about Ophir, Ori's brother-in-law, who was part of the civil guard, the first responders. There were 14 of them, and they were trained and getting ready to a scenario of 2, 3, maybe 5 terrorists coming into the kibbutz. As Ori said, there were 600 of them who invaded the kibbutz. And the first ones went straight to the armory where the first responders went to get their weapons, and they just slaughtered them. And after they were done with the civil guards, they had the whole kibbutz open in front of them and just methodically went from house to house, from neighborhood to neighborhood, to murder and pillage and do whatever they wanted. And
so in the community, there was those first responders, the security force within the kibbutz. You had an armory in the center where all of the heavy weapons to be able to defend, but no anticipation of 600 terrorists that would come. The terrorists recognized that, knew that, came and set up ambush points at that armory, so as the first responders who were then trained to defend, they were the first ones then, I guess, to be killed, thus leaving the community unprotected by this massive amount.
Exactly.
And this, I think this was the time that the kidnap started. The first neighborhood the terrorist attacked was the young adults neighborhood. It just in front of the fence, and they started to, it's the Ori's son neighborhood and his nephew, they have been killed, and they started to kidnap those young adults. And I must say that we came here in the morning and we saw on the entrance of your church the pictures of the kidnap in Israel. It was moved, we were moved, and I pictured it and sent it to the hostages' families in Kfar Aza. We have 18 kidnapped from our community. 11 were released after 50 days. 2 have been killed. And we have still 5 are still holding in Kibbutz Kfar Aza. It's Gali and Zivi Berman, they are twins. There is Doron Streinbacher, 30 years old girl, and Kit Sigal, he's 71, and Emily Damari, she's celebrating today 27 years in Gaza, and we hope that she will be released very soon, that we can celebrate with her. I can say that one of the most difficult thing in our community today is the hostages. We are working with the families. We see the sadness and the struggle of the families to keep this agenda in front of the world, in front of the government, in front of everyone, just to keep it this story. And I want to thank you about the pictures, about your involvement, about you are raising this story. And when we will go back to Israel, to our community, I think they will be very well.
This is the thing I don't understand. Now I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute. I have no concept of people being taken hostage. We've not seen that here in the United States for many, many years. We had it back in the 70s, we remember that, but nothing of this nature. Nothing where terrorists would come in and raid homes of the elderly, of women, of children. I mean, we've seen the pictures of infants, basically, that have been taken. But yet this is not on the news every day. This is not, this has moved off of the news cycle. It's one thing to be involved in the tragedy of war. It's one thing to recognize that. But when you know that people are holding your family hostage, and sadly the stories that we are hearing, you also well of the experiences of those who have been held hostage.
One of our tragic stories deals with the hostages. You know that 2 of our young adults were killed through the time of where there have been hostages. And just I told before, one of the most difficult things about these people who are in the captivity, one of our community member names Amit Susana. She's a young adult, and she was the first one to go out of the world and tell her story about the sexual abuse she was having in Gaza. And she is brave lady speaking about, and I can tell you that sitting with her and trying to help her this time, it's one of the most difficult things that we are doing in order to make her some hope, some recovery, something to do. And like you said, this kind of hostages is one of the most painful things in our community today.
And just may I add that while we are trying to plan and think and figure the future for the community and the kibbutz, just so we understand the mindset of the families, they come to us and they say, what are you doing? We are still stuck on October 7th. We cannot think a day ahead. So we, as a community, are also teared between those mixed emotions and feelings.
Many of them do not know if their family member is alive. Many of them have not heard any positive or negative, nothing positive except the release of those family members. Can you imagine, I want you to watch this, can you imagine having to explain to a younger member of your family that was looking for their uncle or looking for their brother or for a father, coming to the community and seeing pictures like we have here of them on, why are their picture there? Why is that? And have to explain where their brother or their sister or their mother is at. I ran across this news story of a person from your community that was talking about that. Watch this.
If you have a young child, how do you explain to your 4-year-old child what abduction is, what death is? Because this is something I had to explain to my child.
Yes.
Like I had to explain, he asked me, oh, he wants to play with his friends. Where's Uriah? He's in Gaza. What is he doing there? He's been abducted. And he sees these posters. These posters are everywhere in Israel. They came in from 5 directions.
5 directions.
They came in from east, west, north, south, and from the air. And again, they were organized. Everyone had a responsibility. At first, it was the storming squads, and then it was just regular infantry. You call it slaughter squads. This was not spontaneous.
Yes.
This was a planned military execution. Okay, this is important to understand.
Yes.
We realized this. It was a bit too late. This was a military operation.
Yes.
They had logistics, they had plans, they had training, they had intelligence. They knew exactly where the armory was. They knew where the command post was.
Yeah.
They knew where key figures of the community and the community leadership lived. Ophir Lipstein, he's also the mayor of a regional council of Negev. He was killed. He was the first to be killed. He didn't know where he lived. They targeted his house. So this is why we also didn't know what happened, because the people responsible for letting us know what happened, they were targeted first. So we're walking now towards the neighborhood, Dor Tza'ir, the young generation. This neighborhood is one of the places which was hit hardest by Hamas. Almost everyone inside the houses this morning of October 7th was murdered or kidnapped.
The world forgets very fast. So what do you want us to tell the world? What do you want us to tell the people about this story?
The hostages. I think the first thing is to realize that all of us have an open wound, which will not close. This open wound is called the hostages. These hostages are not just numbers. These are our neighbors. These are our friends. These are our daughters, our families. They're people that we know. These are children from our kindergartens. These are the people that are inside Gaza right now. And the second thing is that we need security. And what we thought about security up until October 7th is no more. There's no more hoping for the best. We need real security.
Where are the members of your community today? Obviously, they're not there at Kfar Aza. Where are they today?
Of course, all our community are displaced. And actually, our community is spread all over the country. About 40% are located in Kibbutz Shfaim. It's kind of a motel, and some of them in a caravan and temporary houses. And we have a long, long way of rebuilding Kfar Aza. It's going to take at least 2 years ahead. It's a huge challenge.
So the future, talk to me about the future of the kibbutz.
Well, we are, at these days, we're just building the interim kibbutz. We are the first kibbutz that will return to its own original regional council. We're going to be at Ruhama. About 190 families will go back there. Tzion had spoken with each one of them to make sure they're going to go back. And we're going to be there for about 2 years, maybe more. Depends on the security situation in Kfar Aza, which is now still a war zone. We're facing huge challenges in rebuilding the kibbutz and convincing people to come back. And as you heard, the first thing is the sense of security, the real security and the sense of security, which are both a must for the community members to come back.
last thing, what do you want us to take a hold of from tonight?
First of all, we want you to keep praying for us. That you will keep take the story, Ori's story, and Ori's family story, and Kibbutz Kfar Aza story.
No, a community story, yeah. And the community story.
And the community story, and tell the people that you meet. And then we would like whatever support you can give us, whatever kind of support, we need it. The hug, the praise, but also any other help that you can provide, we need it. We truly need it.
We're going to do that tonight. We're going to give people an opportunity to do that. But let me just pledge to you, gentlemen, please take this back to your community. There's a group of people in downtown Fresno, California. We will not forget. When we saw what happened on October the 7th, immediately we responded with a prayer rally right here in this room to pray for Israel, to pray for communities such as yours. We immediately raised an Israeli flag over our buildings. We want this community to know we stand in solidarity with you. We do it unashamedly, without hesitation. And the pictures of those hostages will stay there until they come home. They will stay there as a continual reminder.
We understand that this is not trivial these days in the U.S., and we really appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts, your support, your courage, your leadership, and thank you for having us here, and thank you for the community. And I want to say a special thank you to Brittany O'Hagan, who's with us the whole time here. So thank you very much, everyone.
Can you give these gentlemen a hand? Let them know that we appreciate them, that we're praying for them. I want you to reflect from, you may be seated. I want you to reflect for just a moment. Because I think, again, as you saw in that video, the open womb of the hostages, that they can't move forward, obviously, until that is resolved, until family. What if it was your son? What if it was your daughter? What if it was your family member? There was a great event that was held there at a historic spot in Israel, where several musicians, artists came together to say, we're not going to stop until they come home. Reflect on that as you watch this.
Abida, home. You might have noticed the group of people walking through the tunnel there in Caesarea at the latter part of the video. Those were the families of hostages who were held and are still held, many of them, in Gaza. So they were there for that moment. You know, tonight we're talking about stories. We're hearing the stories of people who are experiencing and have experienced this period that we're going through. And sometimes those are stories of tragedy, as you just heard at Kibbutz Kfar Aza. But I don't know if you picked up on the sounds of hope from those men. And I want to tell you, you're not alone. And don't give up. Continue to hope. In a few minutes, we'll have the honor to hear from Ambassador Marcos Sermoneta, the Consul General of Israel to San Francisco and the Northwestern United States. But first, we're honored to have another representative of Israel here tonight. And her name is Dina Ornbach. She's the Consul Director of Tourism, responsible for the entire western region of the United States. Dina is not only a representative of tourism, but also a friend, because being a travel company, as we are at Inspiration, we've had the opportunity to work very closely with her over the years. I want to tell you a little bit about Dina. She's based in Los Angeles, and upon joining the Israel Ministry of Tourism in 2016, she worked at the International Desk for Marketing Administration, directing the promotion of tourism to Israel and Europe. In 2020, she began her work here in the U.S. She and her family moved here, and she began to start her work just as the COVID pandemic hit. Now, can you imagine for Dina, she and her team having to focus on developing relationships with tour partners and industries and communities that would bring tourism to Israel at a time when Israel was shut down? Well, we got through that, and now on October 7th, we've had the attack that we've talked about here already tonight. I can't imagine a harder job than representing a nation's tourism when people aren't going. But she's had an incredible spirit. We talk regularly, and she's held on through all of this. You see, this doesn't affect people just in one way. It affects them in many ways. But Dina has been a great example of her country, and she and her family, she has 2 young sons and a husband, they plan to relocate back to Israel next year. See, they don't leave and just stay away. They eventually go back to do the hard work. So I'd like you to help me welcome tonight the Consul Director for Tourism to the Western United States, Mrs. Dina Ornbach.
Thank you so much, Joel. Yes, some might say I have bad timing. I feel very lucky and fortunate to do what I do and to promote tourism to my beautiful home, to Israel. These days are, in fact, much more challenging, almost feels disconnected. Normally, I'm supposed to talk about the positive things. Everything is good, the beauty, the wonderful experiences, airline connectivity, the magnificent sights. You saw Caesarea in the video before, hotels, guides, all those beautiful experiences of travel to Israel. But tonight is not a tourism event. So allow me to remove my Ministry of Tourism hat and speak as me, as Dina, and I can share a conversation I had with Joel last week, and I think it connects a little bit to what was discussed earlier. As Joel mentioned, following my work, I moved to Los Angeles about 4 years ago. I have 2 boys. They are 6 and 4. So for almost their entire lives, they've been here. And now I feel like I have a huge privilege to shield them from everything that's been happening, because we're here, we're not there. And they don't know anything about what happened, and I'm sure they know on some level because mom and dad were very sad and the energy in the house was sad for quite some time. We're going to visit next month, and I'm very excited to go visit. We're going to go for a few weeks, and I'm going to see my loved ones. But then I suddenly realized I have to say something. I have to explain something to these little boys. If they hear a siren, they have no idea what that is. If they hear conversation around the table, or when we land in Ben Gurion and we walk out the plane and they'll ask me about the posters spread all over the walkout right before the border control. I don't want to lie to them, so I will need to think of something that will not terrify them. And I can already see the 1 million questions coming back as follow-up for my 6-year-old. I have no answers, unfortunately. I cannot believe that my generation of young parents need to have these conversations with our kids. Never something that I imagine we would have to do, but this is our home, and this is going to be their home. So it is what it is, and we'll have to have these conversations. Putting back my travel hat back on, which I love so much, I'll say I can't ignore the importance of going to Israel. At this point, it's to understand, really to understand the land, the complexities of our beautiful Israeli society. You heard from the wonderful gentleman about the community of Kfar Aza, and there are so many more. Go there to feel, to get a sense of the land, to taste, to engage. So on the one hand, it feels disconnected to talk about tourism. On the other hand, it feels like you need to go to understand. I want to acknowledge Inspiration Travel. Steve, Stephanie, Joel, the entire team of Inspiration Travel, they have been such wonderful partners. They have been bringing ministries, so many ministries throughout the years to Israel, and I hope you will continue to bring people in the near future. I know that bringing people to Israel is in your core. This is not travel for you, it's a way of life, and I appreciate that very much. It's a value for you. You bring people so they can all have the unique and inspiring experiences, and Israel is really the heart of the company, so thank you for that. If anyone has seen ups and downs in the travel industry in Israel, it's Inspiration Travel. And they've always, always, always pushed through, no matter what challenge they've had, and continued this valuable work. So thank you to Inspiration Travel once again for all their work. And I'm now honored to introduce our next speaker. Ambassador Marco Sermoneta is the Consul General of Israel to the Pacific Northwest, based in San Francisco. A career diplomat since 1993, he is building partnerships and coalitions of support for Israel with the people and governments of Northern California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and Alaska. Marco served as Israel's ambassador to Colombia, as well as ambassador to the Dominican Republic and deputy ambassador to Japan. He played an important role in the Pope's visit of John Paul II to Israel in 2000. Previously, he served as the political counselor of the Israeli mission to the United Nations, focusing on social affairs, human rights, economics, and sustainability. Born in Rome, Marco's family was active in the Roman Jewish community, who traced their origins to the Second Temple period 2,000 years ago. He immigrated to Israel as a child on the day before the Yom Kippur War started in 1973. Before joining the foreign ministry, he was assistant to the night editor of the Jerusalem Post. He received a BA in English Linguistics and International Relations from the Hebrew University and served in a field intelligence unit in the IDF. Marco has been writing and publishing poetry for the past 20 years, and he enjoys Italian cooking and music. Please welcome Marco Sermoneta.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. So wonderful to be here. Thank you very much. We lift ourselves up, but thank you for lifting us up. Before I start, I would like to ask you if you can help me send a message, maybe a round of applause, to the 4 Israelis who were rescued from Hamas captivity in a heroic raid. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to say their names. Noah Argamani, Almog Meir Jan, Andrei Kozlov, and Shlomo Ziv. Let us also applaud the heroes who risked their lives to save those 4, including Chief Inspector Arnon Zmora from the Counterterrorism Unit of Israel Police, who unfortunately was fatally wounded and succumbed to his wounds and killed in action during the rescue effort. Thank you very much. Thank you. My friends, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to start, first of all, of course, by thanking Joel James for inviting me to speak at this event. This has been long coming, and I'm glad that I finally made it over. I also would like to thank Pastor Jim Franklin and Cornerstone Church. Mr. Steve Dick, President of Inspirational Travel, thank you very much. A pleasure to meet you, sir. My friend and colleague Dina Orbach, Director of Israel Tourism to the Southwestern U.S. Members of the Fresno Jewish Federation, Vardit Lichtenstein and Esti Barak. Rabbi Zorkin of Chabad of Fresno. And of course, can I call you brothers? My brothers from Kfar Aza. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, what would normally be a festive gathering of support for Israel is, as you know, clouded by great pain and loss. We felt back in San Francisco the same pain when we recently celebrated Israel's 76th year of independence. But it was clear to us that not marking the historical day would be equal to handing a victory to the perpetrators of October 7th. It would also be a victory for those who rejoiced it. And moreover, it would dishonor those who fought for the establishment of the State of Israel, its prosperity and success, including those who fell on and since that gruesome October morning. So today, I join your gathering of love and support for the Jewish people and all the citizens of Israel and pray with you for the peace of Jerusalem. Jerusalem that just this week celebrated together with all of us the 57th anniversary of its reunification. Jerusalem Day holds immense significance not only for Jews who prayed to it and yearned for it for millennia and carried it in their hearts wherever they went. It is significant also for all those who cherish religious freedom and coexistence, because only since Jerusalem was reunited under Israeli rule, and for the first time in history, faithful of the 3 major monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, were able to worship freely in that holy city. My friends, throughout our long history as a people and our short history as the re-established sovereign homeland of the Jewish people, we have known tragedies in which we suffered enormous losses, perhaps no lesser than the one that befell us 8 months ago. In the Six-Day War, Israel found itself engaged in a war with 3 neighboring Arab countries, and despite being vastly outnumbered, emerged victorious. In the Yom Kippur War, where we were surprised on 2 fronts and paid an extremely high price to survive and win, back then, the population of Israel was slightly over 3 million, and we lost almost 3,000 of our bravest and finest. Let me tell you a story about Yom Kippur, because as Dina just mentioned, my family arrived to Haifa port 24 hours before the Yom Kippur War broke out. So my first siren, I mean, basically, let's face it, that was the welcome, you know. I mean, welcome sermon at a family or party is sponsored by the armies of Egypt and Syria. But my first siren, I heard when I was 5.5. I can't really speak of an experience of being scared. I was concerned, of course, mostly concerned because my parents were concerned. And I do remember scenes from that war. I remember going down to the shelter. And strangely enough, almost 51 years to the day, October 7th arrived, 2023. And I must tell you that I felt those sirens much stronger, and I had much greater concern being thousands of miles away from my home than when I was in the state of Israel. But I was not. I may have been concerned, but I was not afraid. I was not afraid. Because when October 7th came and our home was threatened from 7 different fronts, I remembered one of the loveliest verses in the Bible. Book of Numbers, chapter 23, verse 24 in Hebrew, Am kalavi yakum, or in English, the people of Israel shall rise like a lion. Like we've done so many times before, so we shall do again. Because, my friends, in the words of late Prime Minister Golda Meir, who seems to be having a great comeback, not only because of the movie, we Jews, she said, have a secret weapon in our struggle against the Arabs. We have no place to go. It was true then, and it's still true today. Ladies and gentlemen, the tragedy that we experienced as a nation on October 7th is still raw. We remember the loss of over 1,200 lives that morning, and we think of our 120 brothers and sisters, both dead and alive, that are still suffering, being abused, raped, tortured, and murdered in captivity in the tunnels at the hands of the Palestinian terrorist organization Hamas. And let me remind you, my Christian friends, my American Christian friends, there are still among those held by Hamas 8 Americans, 5 living and 3 dead. Remember that. 8 Americans still captive in the hands of a terrorist organization in Gaza. We think of our friends and family who are on the front lines and have yet to return from the battlefield. And while emotions are still intense and the wound is still fresh, we have seen the resilience and the strength of the Jewish people. Amidst the pain, we have proudly watched our sisters and brothers display great solidarity, courage, and camaraderie, spanning all citizens, regardless of religion, political affiliation, or social differences. At the same time, we saw Israelis and Jews from the 4 corners of the world coming together in an extraordinary, moving display of unity to support the embattled homeland any way they could. And we saw our allies in the Christian communities rally around us, embracing us and lending their support following the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. So thank you again. Thank you. This reminds me of the words of the late Chief Rabbi of the United Kingdom, Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, who, while speaking on behalf of the Jewish people, said, and I quote, "Israel, you are not alone. When you suffer, we suffer. Your grief is ours. Your fears, your prayers, your hopes are ours." Standing here tonight, I feel these words also reflect what each and every one of you are feeling. You too are showing us that we are not alone. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the October 7th massacre was perpetrated by an anti-Semitic, genocidal, terrorist organization and an extremist Islamic regime that is pursuing a nuclear weapon, that have been telling the world for years and now have shown what they would do to every single Jew if they only could, and promised they'd do it again given the opportunity. People in general and mainstream media in particular seem to conveniently ignore this, just like they're ignoring that we did not want this war, or that no other country has ever had to face such an existential threat. Because this is not something that is happening thousands of miles away from our shores. This is unfolding on multiple fronts, barely a handful of miles away from our homes, away from our children's bedrooms. People are also conveniently ignoring, and thus rewarding Hamas, that no other army has ever had to face such complex circumstances in the battlefield and still managed to do better than any other army in the history of modern warfare. Let's be honest. No other country would have responded differently had it faced similar circumstances. And no other military would have done better in similar conditions on the battlefield. And despite all of this, we insist. Israel is at war with Hamas alone and is taking many measures to reduce harm to residents of Gaza, including through the establishment and expansion of a temporary humanitarian zone, promoting the establishment of field hospitals, opening additional channels for transfer of aid, and more. Imagine that. Imagine that. These are the people who went into these guys' homes, stole children's bicycles, stole Jewish artifacts, raped, maimed, burned, and still 31,000 trucks carrying over 600,000 tons of food, water, medical supplies, and other humanitarian aid have entered Gaza since the beginning of the war. Right now, the amount of food entering the region is 80% greater than the amount that was being delivered before the war. We continue to coordinate with the US and other partner countries with the aim of increasing it as much as possible from land, air, and sea. And while we are investing enormous amounts of effort to ensure a continuous supply of aid to Gaza, Hamas is firing at the crossings through which the aid is delivered and the entities involved in the provisions of aid, directly impairing this delivery of humanitarian aid to them. But then again, we're talking about Hamas. My friends, Israel needs to come out of this war with a crushed Hamas and a new reality. A new reality where there will no longer be a terrorist organization in Gaza with either the desire or the capability to hurt us. People need to go back home. Over 100,000 internally displaced people in Israel need to go home. Talk about a humanitarian crisis. There is a humanitarian crisis. How come it's not spoken about? We must ensure that we must send a message also to others, including Hezbollah in Lebanon and to Iran, that no one can attack Israel with impunity. These objectives are crucial for the region, but also for the world. And the world must choose whether to accommodate terrorism or fight it. Israel is fighting extremism and terrorism not only on behalf of itself, but on behalf of the entire civilized world, for freedom, for democracy, and for life itself, against those who are seeking to destroy our Western values. the same values that bind Israel and the United States of America together. These are not, and I am confident that you are not exactly the audience that need to be reminded, these are not the values of those who attack Israel these days, including here in America. It is inconceivable that so many people who consider themselves progressive cheer on the street or at Berkeley, Stanford, and UC Santa Cruz for some of the most illiberal people in the world in support of what is diametrically the opposite of these values. Let me tell you a little story. Let me tell you a little story because this is relevant to this part of the world, to this part of America, but it happened everywhere. The call for protest in solidarity, whatever that means, with Palestine, whatever that means, came out on social media in the afternoon hours of October 7th, Pacific Standard Time. The protest was in front of our consulate in the afternoon of October 8th. Do you know, does anybody here know how late did it take for our forces to get rid of the last terrorist on Israeli soil? It took 72 hours. The last one of them was out or was taken down on October 10th. So these protests were celebrations, were jubilations of the maiming, the raping, the burning, the murder, the brutal assault and murder of innocent Israelis. That's what they were. The hysterical and all too common rush to judgment against Israel, the demonization of the Jewish state as the enemy of humanity, and the fabrication of modern blood libels, such as genocide, is the result of manipulation and anti-Semitism, and we continue to see it since October 7th. Hamas, who has deliberately embedded itself in tunnels, homes, mosques, and kindergartens, is using a sick strategy to sacrifice its own civilian population in order to take advantage of that very suffering with the assistance of an already biased UN system, further amplified by mass media and broadcast virally on social media in order to put pressure on Israel to try to force us to stop so they can survive. Not pointing a finger at the terrorist organization that has launched this war and is hiding behind civilians is telling Hamas that their strategy of using human shields is working. At the same time, there is the eruption on October 7th of the hatred of Jews that has been steadily boiling over for decades under a very thin layer of political correctness, often masked behind hatred of the Jewish state. What we saw in horrific videos uploaded on broadcast or broadcast live by Hamas was reciprocated with ecstatic posts on social media, by statements from ivory towers, and by chants of "from the river to the sea" across the US and the world, in a well-funded, well-organized, and pre-planned wave of 6 celebrations of the massacre, rape, and burning of Jews. People were willing to believe the worst about Jews even in that moment, and at the same time treat them with suspicion and incredulity and deny the atrocities perpetrated against them. Since October 7th, we have witnessed a resurgence of anti-Semitic sentiment, manifested in vile acts of hatred and bigotry. Governments and societies have seemingly deteriorated to a moral low point where they allow an atmosphere in which their Jewish citizens perhaps do not wear a badge on their garments, but definitely feel like they have a target on their backs. Looking at events in universities and schools, the educational system itself is where anti-Semitism seems to be the worst, including with the active support of many professors and educators, and only at times veiled as anti-Zionism. Under the banner of free speech, activists, quote unquote, today call for the death of Israelis, and campuses are becoming inhospitable to Jews, making the lives of Jewish students unbearable. They have turned into hotbeds of anti-Semitism, and college leaderships continue to fail them by not enforcing measures they themselves have enacted. The explosion of anti-Semitism is a real-life threat to Jews, but it is also toxic to our democracies, an assault on our common humanity, and a standing threat to human security. But I still believe that, as polls show, most Americans stand firmly behind Israel's right to defend itself against threats to its security, including the actions of Hamas. Thank you. Am Yisrael Chai, thank you. It is therefore crucial for the silent majority that supports to make their voices heard and be silent no more. My friends, we have learned from history not to ignore those who call for our destruction, but also not to let them deter us. In times of crisis, it is important to stand united and draw strength from our shared values and beliefs. As leaders in the Christian community, I ask you to continue to show unwavering support for Israel and its people. Reaffirm your commitment to upholding what brings us together and what we share. Thank you for praying for Israel. Thank you for supporting the Jewish homeland. And thank you for being here with me tonight. Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Sermonetta, for those incredible and powerful words. I'm curious tonight, are there any pastors in the room? If you're a pastor, I'd just like you to stand up if you don't mind. Do we have some pastors here? There are a few of you. Let's welcome them. Thank you for being here. There's a reason why I asked you to do that. You'll see in just a moment. Several of those sharing their stories tonight are Jewish Israelis, or they're Jewish, like Donna from Santa Cruz. But they're not the only ones deeply impacted by what's happening in Israel. A nation of nearly 9 million people, Israel is also home to over 1 million Arab citizens. You may not realize that there are Arabs at every level and station in society in Israel, including the Supreme Court. Israel is a very pluralistic society. In fact, it's the only one in the Middle East. And we're pleased to be joined tonight by an unexpected voice of hope from the Arab community in Israel. Reverend Dr. Salim Shalash is the senior pastor and founder of Home of Jesus the King Church, located in the home of Jesus, Nazareth. Pastor Salim is a born and bred Nazarene and a Christian Israeli Arab. He and his wife Nizreen have served at the church there for 7 years, and they oversee a number of ministry outreaches to help people in need throughout the region where they live. We've asked Pastor Salim to join us from Nazareth via video recorded just earlier, and to share his response and his church's response to what happened on October 7th. So please welcome via video Dr. Salim Shalash.
First of all, it's an honor and privilege to share with you greetings to everyone who's listening, watching us. And always, it's an honor to share the truth. Can't forget this day, it was Shabbat. You know, on this day, me and my wife, we go to the gym. And on our way, we have heard at 6 a.m. morning about the attack. And we thought that it's normal, like every time that Hamas attacking Israel. But after a few hours, we found a terror attack, and I call it really a demonic terror attack. I can't believe a human could do what Hamas did with the Israeli civilian, innocent people, that all their sin, they are Jewish. And getting in and killing these people in this way, it shows the demonic movement of Hamas, killing innocent people. It's not a war. It's not defense their country. It's not soldiers in front of soldiers. It's really called genocide. That's killing children. You can't imagine to bake a baby 6-month-old in an oven in front of his mom's eyes. What happened? 48 years I'm living in Israel. I didn't see Israel doing that. Never ever happened like this. All the time war started, Israel's defense their country. But I want to say that the first Holocaust, the church was silent. So the second Holocaust, 7th of October, the church will not. I'm talking about our church, because we saw what happened and no one accepted what happened. And we need to stand for the truth. This is the reason that the church took step of faith, helping the evacuated families, helping, from both north and south. We are in the middle. Nazareth is in the middle. So our hotels was packed with a lot of Jewish families. I asked the Lord, what do you want me to do? He said, to do like my son did, to show the love to everyone, to Gentiles and to Jews. And it's not time to win discussions. It's not time to share your hatred or your thoughts. It's time to show the love. And this is the harvest that the Lord prepared for us by showing the love to everyone. So we were busy from the 7th of October until today. It's non-stop. Every day we have today our biggest humanitarian aid center in Nazareth, helping, Jews and Arab. In our humanitarian aid center, you can see a Muslim, Jew, and Christian at the same time, taking their needs, no argue, no discussions, just showing the love of Yeshua. So the church was busy and still busy by showing the love, by giving food packages, by giving clothes, shoes. These families flee from their home. On in summertime, winter started, they have nothing. All what they have, just some money and their passport. So we were buying these clothes and these shoes and going to the hotels, making like a big bazaar. Everyone coming and take his needs. And the only question that always we have heard, why you are doing that for us? You are Arab and we are Jewish. And I said, because of your Messiah. It's because of your scriptures. And until today, we receive more and more families coming to our humanitarian aid center, Holocaust survivors, Russian refugees, Ukrainian refugees, and we still continue showing the love of Yeshua to these families. Why? Because God asked us to be light in darkness. And the Lord asked us to be, showing the mercy and the love that He taught us in His life on earth. So we want to be shining on these difficult days and knowing that the plan of God will be fulfilled with me or without me, but I want to be part of His plan.
Thank you, Pastor Salim. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here to hear these stories tonight. We've heard very compelling stories and testimonies from several people whose lives will never be the same since the attack on Israel on October 7th. And we now have the opportunity and the responsibility to form a response to what we have heard, just like Pastor Salim admonished us to do. James reminds us in chapter 1, not just to listen, but also to act. In a few moments, we're going to have the opportunity to share in an offering, which we're going to take to help Ori Epstein, Kfar Aza, and also the work of Home of the Jesus the King in Nazareth. We're going to take an offering to help these two amazing organizations that are trying to rebuild in the aftermath of terror. In Romans 15:25 through 28, the Apostle Paul was anxious to get back to Jerusalem to bring an offering from the churches. And he reminded the Romans, for if the Gentiles have shared in the Jews' spiritual blessings, they owe it to the Jews to share with them in their material blessings. Is there anyone here tonight who believes you've received blessings from the Jewish people in your life? So tonight we have the opportunity to give back, to be a blessing, to put our faith into action and stand together. Jesus told a parable about the end of time in Matthew 25, in which he said, "Truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you did it to me." Now, at the time that Jesus uttered these words, there were no Christians. Now, we know that as Gentiles, we apprehend by faith the things that were promised to the Jewish people through the Jewish Messiah, Yeshua, but he is Jewish. Not was, still is. And his brothers and sisters, though we get that benefit through faith as adopted sons and daughters, but when he says, what you've done to the least of these, my brothers and my sisters, he means all of them, including our elder brother, the Jewish people. Paul tells us that we've been grafted into the promises that are already theirs, and that those promises still stand to this day. And if you think they don't, then why would you believe he'd keep his promises to you or to me, who are Gentiles? Pastor Robert Morris is the founding pastor of Gateway Church in Southlake, Texas, which in just 20 years has become the largest church in America with multiple campuses and an attendance of more than 100,000 people. I was with Pastor Robert Morris when he was asked to what he attributes the growth and success of Gateway Church. His answer came from Romans 1:16, to the Jew first. Pastor Robert directs the first 10% of Gateway Church incoming finances to Jewish ministry, and he's done so from the beginning. He takes very seriously Genesis 12:3, where God makes an eternal promise to Abram and the nations when he says, "I will make you a great nation and I will bless you. I will make your name great and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the peoples of the earth will be blessed through you." So tonight, friends, we have the opportunity to apprehend that blessing through our prayers and through our giving. And I want to encourage every person, and especially every pastor or organizational leader here tonight, to make a commitment to do something exceptional on behalf of Israel and the Jewish people. Let's not miss the opportunity to do something very tangible and very lasting. Let's help these men rebuild their community and bring their people home. Pastor Jim is going to come and help us and tell us exactly how you can give tonight. There will be a QR code. Pastor Jim, come and help us with that.
Thank you, Joel. Put the QR code up there. We know how to do this. It's one thing to have an event like this and come, and I want to say thank you so much for attending, because your presence here is so important. But I want to put it in a tangible way to help these communities. You've heard the story tonight of Kfar Aza. You've seen the pain upon these men's faces. They've told the stories of their loved ones that have passed, of destruction of their community, and even of those that are being held hostage. We need to show them in a tangible way, a financial way, because that's what it's going to take to be able to rebuild these communities. And so I want to encourage you to utilize this QR code, take your phones out, And there you can give, and then we're collecting that, and then we in turn will be able not only to be a blessing there to the foundation that's doing that, but also with what you've just seen is happening in Nazareth, to reach out, because we want to reach out to all those that have been impacted by this. And so if you want to give in a physical way here, there will be containers as you leave by both of the doors that you can drop that in there. If you would like to have tax credit for a cash gift, there are envelopes that are on the seat backs in front of you. If you're making out a check, then make that out to Cornerstone. We in turn, all of the funds that come in will go to these projects. I assure you of that. But I want to give you a moment right now to think about that. I told these gentlemen as we had lunch today, I have no concept of what this must be like. I have no frame of reference of what it would be like to be under this type of danger because of the proximity of those that want to see the destruction of your communities, of your nation, of your people. They proved that on October the 7th. And then to live under that constant threat, and then after what has taken place. I have no point of context for that. That's why I want to say, how can I help in a financial way to be able to add some type of relief to them? I encourage you to give very liberally tonight. I encourage you to not give just merely from your pocketbook, give from your heart. And think if this is an opportunity that I have to be able to show in a tangible way. I believe in all the scriptures that Joel just read for you. I want to be a blessing to Israel. God said, those that bless you, I will bless. Those that curse you, I will curse. I want to be on the blessing side. But let me just say to you very honestly, I'm a preacher. I live by the book. I believe in it. But it's not simply because of a blessing that I do what I do to support Israel. This is the right thing to do. Regardless of your faith, regardless of your theology, what happened on October the 7th and what was happening to the people of Israel is wrong. I want to stand on the side of right. And I want to show it not simply by my words, but my actions. Your giving does make a difference. I think many times in our world we think, oh, my little bit, it won't matter. You have no idea how it will matter and the message that it will send. I encourage you, don't leave here without being on the side of blessing. Don't leave here without being on the side of right. Don't leave here tonight without giving. And then now I'll speak as a Christian. As Joel gave the scripture, our roots are in Judaism. That's where we have come from. And to our Jewish brothers and sisters here tonight, I tell you how honored we are to have you, how much we love you, how much we respect you, and that we stand with you. So there again is the QR code. You can utilize that there. You can give in a physical way. But I want to bring this evening to a conclusion. Again, thank you all for attending. This means something.